Well, not on us.
Not on us.
Now we're in the spotlight, which means it's about time that we should do some talking. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming and joining us on a Thursday morning at, what is it, 10:42. You all probably had a couple of drinks last night at the George. That's OK. You're here. So feel free to sit back, relax and enjoy. My name's ODUBA, and like we've said in the brief, on the brochure, we've got an exciting announcement to make in combination with Buzzfeed and Twitter. An amazing panel here that are here for your delectation. We've got DARA NASR, who's the Managing Director of Twitter, JANINE GIBSON, the, would you say editor-in-chief?
Apparently.
That's a good title, of Buzzfeed UK. Scott Gibson is the TV editor of Buzzfeed UK, and Dion
I can help you,
Grant, don't, because I've learned all these things. And if I can't do it now, then I'll never do it. Dion Grant, who's the social media editor of Buzzfeed UK. Yes, come on. OK, good start. I'm away. I'm back in. You don't need to applaud that. But if you want to, and I'm all right, and I'm the one sitting in the middle. So we've got some exciting stuff to do. But I think what we should do to kick off, Janine, is tell us a little bit about why Buzzfeed are here at the TV Festival.
Thank you for asking, Ori.
Yes.
We came up because, although we are an entertainment and news organisation, we have mainly in the UK been doing stuff on our own website, some video, some text, many GIFs, some blogs. But about a year ago, a bit more than that, we started experimenting with doing some video stuff as well. We did a number of Facebook Lives, some of which were terrible and some of which were quite interesting and people liked. We did a Facebook Live for the Brexit referendum. Don't you remember that thing? Big deal last year. But we did a 5-hour show with David Cameron and Nicola Sturgeon and Nigel Farage and a bunch of people, and it was not terrible. It was actually quite good. Emboldened by that, we then did one in the US for the US election. We then started doing a morning daily show in the US with Twitter called AM to DM, which runs every day on Twitter as a partnership between Buzzfeed and Twitter. Mm-hmm. And now we're going to do one in the UK, which is a first, obviously, for us at Buzzfeed to do a show with Twitter, and I think a first for them as well. Very exciting.
OK, so you've had partnership before, and I think what's great is that, I mean, obviously, we're here at the festival and talking about how telly has changed, and everybody knows about second screening. Everybody knows that if you're watching Eurovision on one hand, you've got your phone in the other hand going, what are Norway doing this year? Greece, you've gone crazy all over again. You're watching England against Colombia. You're going, it's coming home. And then 2 weeks later, come on, guys, it was never going to come home. That's how we work. So you wanted to tap into that.
So the idea is to have a conversation in the place where the conversation is happening. And much as that's the show that we're going to do, we wanted to talk about it at Edinburgh because the show is about TV. We need everybody in the TV industry to want to be a part of it because we want to work with you. Specifically, I need producers and camera people and editors. So if you know anybody great or you are great, please be in touch.
You can't leave the room until you sign up. You didn't know about that, so sorry to break it to you. Do continue.
Thank you, that was a job ad.
I'm just helping, I'm helping.
But also because we wanted to sort of say, hello, we're here and this is what we're going to do here in the middle of the industry. But the way the show came about is a bit more interesting than that. Scott will tell you about that.
Go on, Scott, Brian.
So I had a rant on Twitter, of all places, where I was just basically having a bit of a vent about how at a time when TV is exploding at such a mad sort of way, there's, you know, massive streaming partners getting involved. People are watching box sets, not just now, but from years ago that they're just getting into. And that it is such a... TV seems to be at a point where people are discussing it, debating it all the time. There is no real place where people were actually doing it that often. I sort of found that there were so many shows that debated about film on radio or on TV, but there was nothing that was a kind of place where people were saying, oh, I love this show, have you seen this show, or this show's utter shite, and then having that bit of discussion. So I had this sort of rant on Twitter. There was a lot of people going, oh yeah, you know, that's a really good point. And then one of the replies was like, have you thought about putting it on Twitter, like making it a Twitter hosted show? And that immediately was like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it was kind of the case that, you know, I say probably everyone in here at one time or another has gone onto Twitter and has just been searching through to see if there's a show that people are talking about or that they want to go and watch that night, or have been recommended by something that a friend or somebody that they admire or like or hate has been talking about and they want to give it a go. And I just thought, well, you know, this just seems like to be the right venue for it to be harnessing what everyone's been saying and also keeping an open mind. I think when on the old days, you only would really hear about what was on TV from TV listing magazines or from what a critic has been saying. It's only 2 or 3 specific shows. So I thought of like, you know, I think this would be a good partnership in terms of having people talking about the shows that they are excited about and essentially trying to get the idea about what is a good show to watch. The conversation is already there on Twitter and you thought, well, this is a perfect opportunity. Yeah. So you put the tweet out there, Twitter, Buzzfeed, coming together. That's a good time to show a little sizzle of what you want to put out there on everyone's timelines. Let's play. And I think these days, because there's so much TV, it's about making sure that the TV you watch is fucking great quality. What to Watch is a weekly Twitter show about television.
The whole of Twitter right now?
We'll bring you reviews, recaps, interviews with the stars, social news, games, and give you the inside scoop on what to watch next.
Oh, and if you don't know by now, Scott is all things Bake Off.
Bake Off, connoisseur.
Weren't you on Bake Off?
I was just baking in my house. I'd watched the episode on the Wednesday, buy the equipment on the Thursday, and cook it that night, and I am shit at baking. I truly am. I really wanted this to be good. This looks like sick.
It's on the floor.
I can't really use this one, can I? I now know the difference between an egg white and an egg yolk. I didn't when I started.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rank.
EastEnders. I haven't watched it for a while, but as I'm on Twitter, I saw obviously everyone was talking about EastEnders, and I was like, what is going on?
Drunken mouthy tart.
That is the moment that basically everyone is talking about, the cream on Sharon.
Why throw a jug of cream?
Because it's EastEnders. Why not? So, you've got a TV expert and a Twitter expert, and we'll be telling you all the things that go down on TV, on Netflix, on the internet.
So tune in on Twitter on Tuesdays, because this is a good damn show, and it's a show that tells you about all the stuff that's on the other shows.
Basically, watch us.
Deserves a light ripple, I think. So Buzzfeed and Twitter are coming together to make What to Watch. Dion, you massively excited about this?
I'm extremely excited about it, very nervous, but very excited also. I think you touched upon it earlier. When you watch TV, you're also on Twitter. I mean, I think, Dara, you might want to jump in here, but 62% of users admit that when they're on Twitter, they were actually doing, so kind of watching TV also. So I think for me, it's like, it goes together. Buzzfeed and Twitter just kind of like gel. So for me, I'm incredibly excited. I mean, as a social media expert myself, I think.
You are.
Don't take the title away. We've given you that, so don't take it away.
I mean, I don't know if anyone watched it here, but there was Manhunting with my mum. It was on Channel 4 this
Loved
week.
it.
Right,
Did anybody watch it? Yes.
Single Girls.
Download it. It's still there.
But I watched it, and there's a TV writer called Danielle Dash, who I follow on Twitter. And she came on the next day and was like, she was heartbroken because she didn't get to watch it with Twitter. And I guess that summarises our show. Like, being able to know what to watch, when to watch it, and like to watch it with a crew of people, it kind of like changes the whole experience, and it kind of enhances your moment on Twitter. And that's what we're trying to do. Discover shows with you, not telling you what to watch, but we're looking for hashtags. We're trying to search with our users to find a show that kind of speaks for them and with them. I think that's a way to kind of...
So from your perspective, Dara, why is it that you thought that this is a show that could work? And with Buzzfeed?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Buzzfeed have been superb partners with us for a long time. Janine's gone through that, but I think you can see the synergy between Twitter and the show, which is obviously the perfect fit. But I think just taking a step back, actually, and this might be a controversial thing to say, I think social media as a term is relatively unhelpful. And what I mean is, when you talk about TV, you have TV companies trying to make amazing content for as many people to watch as possible. And that's supremely simple, really easy to understand. But in social media, there are hundreds of different companies doing totally different things, trying to vary with various different objectives. So I think that what it's hard for the audiences to really understand that. So Twitter, we kind of see ourselves more as an interest network. So we're not closed, we're totally open. And by interest, it's the kind of the shortest distance between you and what interests you most. So if you like football, you know, you go to Twitter to find out what's going on with your football team. And TV is like in the top 2 or 3 interests up there with sport, really. And that's where we see the real synergy. And I think that you could say, but there's a lot of chat about TV online. Yes, but it's totally different. Our audiences are really passionate communities that love TV. You know, we have more than 2/3 of our audience are watching live TV every day. About half of them watching 3 hours plus of live TV every day. They love it, and they're not just loving watching it, they like talking about it, engaging with other people that are talking about it. To your point, is what's good, what's shit, what's this, what's that, and having that moment of community, essentially. And again, so it's the perfect show, really, for Twitter.
You're nodding, Janine.
So
that's a good sign.
Yeah, happily, I agree with our new partner. I think what's interesting is how different your approach to reaching these communities can be, different watching communities. If you're not doing one thing on network television reviewing television, or one column in a national newspaper reviewing television, well, you aren't sort of setting the agenda of what people are watching. You're listening to the conversation, seeing what they're watching when they're discussing it. Do you talk about it when it's happening live, or are you talking about that show the next day? And we have all that data because Twitter has all that data, and you can use that to inform the editorial decisions you're making and the selections that you're making for the show, which is incredibly powerful. In a way, it's quite threatening to an editor, because it suggests that editors aren't as good at making decisions as the people that you're trying to reach. But actually, that is right, though, isn't it? That's just right. And if people are downloading stuff and they're not watching it live and they're having conversations all different times, we can reflect that in the show.
Well, people are in charge of their own schedules now. And I guess maybe that is the difficulty when you're putting out a show like this that does sit in one place. Obviously, you can access it at whatever point you want to. But is it going to work in conjunction? If somebody did watch Marrying, or what was it called again? It was Manhunting with my mum. If they were watching that, why necessarily would they want to go and watch your show when they can just interact with it on their social media as quickly as they might want to do?
Commentary in one place. Like what it is, we're not like the users make our show. So we are sitting here doing our show, but everyone who's tweeting, who's talking about it, who are putting GIFs up about it, is all congregated in our show. So what it is, our show is dictated by those who are tweeting about it. So, like I say, we're just talking about the conversation. So we're just another body that's talking about Manhunt with Manhunt.
And that shows a really good example of one that perhaps other people wouldn't know to have the conversation about it, and we will know because we'll be able to see it. But more importantly, it's not just build it and they will come. We will go and find the conversation. Do you want to talk about the packaging?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that a couple of things here is that just to build on that is that I said there are so many of our users love TV and are on there all the time and they know about it, but almost half of them are finding new things to watch from Twitter. So people recommending, and this is the absolute peak of that, is bringing all of that into one place. And I think, you know, to build on that and just to make it very clear, because we know it's a platform, this is a new kind of concept of platform, it is a live show, but we'll also be doing highlights, clips, repeats throughout the week. And the way it works is it's ad funded, essentially. A sponsor, so it will be live on the Tuesday, whatever day, but then a sponsor, we will be able to use our targeting for people who like TV, people who talk about TV, and target them with clips later in the week, which will just, you know, not just drive up popularity of show, but views, information, and help them, I suppose, use the platform to find new shows as well. So that's
the way that I sort of see it in terms of how the show is, there would be like a segment where we'll be like, you know, there was this big show that happened, you know, let's say dropped on Netflix 2 weeks ago, everyone's talking about it. For those people who love that show, what else are people liking? You know, what other shows are like that you should get into? So, for example, we always do posts about sort of documentaries that people have been really getting into, and those are really, really popular because somebody watches one and then are like, what else should I watch? That's also a documentary or also on this theme. And I imagine that in the show where we would be like, you know, this show's just come out, it's had a really good reception. What are your recommendations? What are other people saying about what to watch next?
I remember when half-hour shows on BBC Two, I think it was Jane Root was the controller, this is a really long time ago, started to make a half-hour show into sort of chunks and say, so there's an opening chunk where we foreshadow what's going to happen, and then there's an expositionary chunk, and then there's another. This all seems really obvious now, but before that it was just a half-hour show. What's really interesting about this is each of the segments in the show become their own thing, which are then separated out either as a sort of franchise theme or a show-related discussion or a what-to-watch recommendations, which you can then watch on a Thursday or a Tuesday night.
So this show won't just exist as, I mean, duration-wise, that was one question I was going to ask.
No.
That's not defined?
It is a 40-minute show, of course, or possibly an hour if everybody gets a bit carried away. But yeah, it is one show. And then it is also a nightmare spawning baby with millions of other things, but each bit of it has its own life, which we can then distribute sort of according to when people want to see it, and we can use data to back that up. It's a little bit mind-blowing, but I think it's quite interesting. It has a lot of implications for how you would do news, politics, other sorts of coverage. It's nice to start with TV because it's a wholesome thing that nobody ever argues about.
And but it's building on some of the stuff and some of the data we've seen already. So, you know, TV's not a new world to us. We've partnered from day one with ITV, with Sky, with a variety of different people across in the UK and broad sporting organisations. But also we did a show with Global, the kind of owners of Capital, Pop Buzz, which was a weekly show where they'd interview a musician, whatever, talk about the new releases. Did a similar thing. It was a show, live show, but then to spawn the babies and be highlights putting out there, and that was getting, you know, about 1 million views a week. So we have the legacy, and we know, again, using the data and the targeting, that we can promote that show into people's timelines so they discover it, find out about it, etc.
That user-friendly thing I want to ask you about, because we saw with Instagram TV, they made a huge thing about the fact that it needed to be in portrait, it needed to fill up that whole screen, and you could just tap into it when you want to. With Twitter, is that how people want to consume their, well, if it's talking about telly in particular, is that how they want to consume it? Do they want to watch it? Do they want to talk about it and then just leave? Or do you think that actually something like that exists is really how, as far as the data said, is actually what people want to consume?
Well, what we've seen on our platform is that, and again, it's a term that gets thrown a lot, is that but our Twitter users like the native look and feel of their programme. What we mean like that is we have the timeline, and they like it to be within the timeline, part of their Twitter experience. So, yes, you know, you go there in a discovery mindset, you find out about it, so there'll be fans of the show tuning in, watching it all the time. Again, it'll be promoted to others, bringing awareness to them. But also 2/3 of our users are searching for stuff every day. You know, especially TV fans, they don't just want to hear what Scott's saying necessarily. I'm sure they do, obviously.
Of course they do.
Of course they do. I mean, who wouldn't? You know, but they also just want to see what's going on about it. You know, there's nearly 20 million searches for Love Island, for example. And it's not just for what their followers, the people they follow are saying, just what everyone is saying. And there's a lot of humour in that as well. But it's not just, everyone will think, well, that's just Love Island. Well, no, every time Question Time's on, it trends. Newsnight trends every night. You know, people like to say, you know, so if a politician comes out and says, you know, this is a bottle of milk, people say, no, it's not, it's water. People want to be part of the conversation, listening and participating. Telly
hasn't always been brilliant at engaging with the second screen because it was seen as a risk or a threat for so long, competing attention. We were in that Love Island session yesterday, the Love Island masterclass, and it was perfectly clear that the difference between sort of season 1 of Love Island and whatever season we're on now, like 482, is really understanding how working... Oh, you know this, you were on Strictly. And it was a couple of years ago. Did you read it as you went along?
I did actually. I did in the early days because it was interesting to see how people were... Well, I think that the Strictly fans are very they can be volatile, they're very loyal, but they got a big voice. And I guess that's what you're talking about, is that you want to be able to hone in on that voice. By the end, I was like, I'm going anywhere near it, because there are some, you know, you can go through all the really good ones, and if there's one, that's the one that you go to bed thinking.
Did they have muting when you were?
No, I just self-muted. Just turned everything off. So I'm going to enjoy this experience, and thankfully it was all right. But no, I guess when Strictly comes, as soon as you've had a live show, that's the stuff that is top of the trend.
Yeah, I mean, the way I sort of see it is that the show would be kind of different each week. So, for example, if let's say there's been a massive moment on Bake Off that everyone's talking about it, I'm not going to be like, oh, let's just not talk about Bake Off. Of course you're going to talk about Bake Off, because there's been this giant thing. And it's the same case with, you know, around live awards or live ceremonies. Yeah. There's always talking points around there. But then it's also the case that, you know, I always find that at the moment, people are looking very much on linear TV still, very much looking forward. And I'm sort of thinking, well, it's a bit strange about how when Netflix or Amazon releases a show, 2 weeks later, people are on to the next thing, just at the time when a great amount of people are starting to watch that show for the first time. So I'm quite prepared, even after, let's say, a show's not, you know, debuted on Netflix by about a month, to be like, okay, that show was out, you know, a month ago. This has now been a time that everyone's gotten into the episodes. Was it good? Was it shit? Yeah. Let's just definitively say and then move on.
Again, it's just listening, I guess, listening to what Twitter is saying and using that to then kind of like fuel our show. So even though something debuted, we haven't got to go with the debut. We go, okay, Twitter's really, really on it now. Let's get into this discussion. Let's feed the monster with this discussion, and that's kind of like what we're going to try and do. How
logistically, if you've got Amazon, if you've got Netflix, how have you got? I mean, that's a lot of editing that you've got to be able to. That's a big span of the amount of stuff. So how's that editorially? How are you able to chop that down and make sure you've got eyes on everything?
So, and we sort of do this with our coverage, which is we look for what people are talking about and then we write about it, rather than looking at the schedules and writing about it.
Right.
So we've always been led by that on BuzzFeed anyway. But even more so with Twitter, you are not attempting to be even-handed in representing platforms. You're not going, oh well, ITV's got a new show out, but so has Channel 5. You're just going, where is the attention? And if everybody is talking about a streaming show on Netflix, then that's what we'll talk about. And if it's EastEnders this week, well, it'll be EastEnders. But it can be entirely bottom up instead of just being top down. And that's really exciting, because we say those words all the time, but actually we are in a position where you can do that now.
And are you going to show those clips? So if there's been something on Amazon, I mean, in this...
subject to everybody approving and saying that that's a good thing, and they would like us to... Obviously, we would never steal anything.
No.
I think there might be a fair rights thing.
Add to that, Dara? Use of actual clips.
Well, I mean, I can't at all comment. It's a rights thing, of course, but again, I think it's about honing in on the conversation, saying what people are saying, talking about the funny. I mean, for example, often it's not just the clips, it's about what people have said about the clips that make things so humorous.
Honestly, and I think often the meme is better than the clip.
Yeah, it's true. So again, about your example about not just watching the programme, but watching it with Twitter, watching it with other people with similar or different mindsets, but people who are fans of the show or TV broadly.
OK, we're going to open up for questions shortly, so if you've got one, bear in mind, we've got a microphone as well, but if you're loud enough, we'll hear you. OK, so getting into the nitty-gritty, the two of you are going to host this beautiful beast. And how's that going to fit in? I mean, obviously, you have your role with the BuzzFeed already, but how are you going to be able to dedicate your time to this to make it as good as you want it to be?
I mean, I'd say that a lot of my life revolves particularly always watching TV, consuming TV, and then when I get home, I then watch a TV show, go, oh, that's nice, and then I then write about it the following day. So I kind of find that I'm completely absorbed in it, which is the great frustration of my housemates. It's like, oh, we have to watch this show again?
Yeah.
But I highly enjoy it. So it's kind of the case of, I think there's that. We are very much, I've always been so interested in regards to what other people are into and what other people are watching on TV, and it's kind of the case with Dion as well. It's kind of like, I've always loved in our office when people are saying, oh, have you seen this show? Is that really interesting? And I try to sort of catch it up in that same way. Yeah. So the way that I sort of see it is that when I'd be during the week sort of seeing what people are saying on the trends and on Twitter, I would be like, oh, that show's interesting. I'll give that a go and just sort of, become familiar with it. But also we've got many people at BuzzFeed who are such big fans of certain shows. We would bring them on to be explaining
exactly
it in
that.
time. Because it's so hard to watch everything.
Yeah.
There's so many different shows out there.
And I guess just to follow on from what Scott's saying, for me, I spend all of my days searching what's trending on Twitter. So it's kind of like a no-brainer, really. Scott is the TV king, and I meant that when I said it, then I mean it right now. Like, there is no higher. So that is what Scott does. What I like to think my strength is kind of identifying what's trending on Twitter and helping that feed into our conversations that we have on what to watch.
Dion is the voice of the internet.
Oh, yeah. You're just adding titles now, Dion. Let's open it up. Is there anybody that's got any questions that you'd love to fire off? Yes, please, sir, down in the front.
Hello, I'm Ali May.
Hi.
One for Janine, one for Dara. Janine, what are the plans for creating other shows like that? Do you have any other themes that you are looking at? And Dara, I know you are partnering with publishers like Bloomberg and Buzzfeed. Do you have any plans to have your own Twitter-owned shows like this? Thank you.
So BuzzFeed is currently producing for Netflix, Hulu, Facebook and Twitter. So, and we're doing everything from a daily news show to longer form documentaries for Netflix to interview show for Facebook. These are in the US, obviously. The three of us are not doing all of these things at the moment. But just to give you an idea of the sort of range of things you can do, it turns out that despite not really being a production company, we are now. We're producing for all of the platforms. As long as you work with brilliant people and come up with the right idea for each platform, almost anything can work. So, in theory, a news website shouldn't be producing a documentary series for Netflix. That would be terrible, but I've seen it, it's quite good. You would watch it. It's great. The first one's about sex trafficking. It's a really good thing. And it isn't, oh, we investigate the memes. They're really great stories. BuzzFeed produces a lot of very important investigative journalism that wins huge amounts of awards, and that translates really well. Similarly, we will do a hugely fun, entertaining, trustworthy programme about television because we know our audience really well, and so does Twitter. So we'll do that as well. So I think sky's I would like to do something about politics. I'd love to do something about politics. I think we might get our feet wet with telly first.
Go on, Dara.
Yeah, and no, we don't. I mean, we're a platform, and we've worked with broadcasters and publishers since day one. And the way we see it is, we think TV's great and thriving. And I think the way we kind of position Twitter is that we're a bridge, not an island. So we try to make great media greater. So we've got friends from Channel 4 here, and we've got Sky and ITV and the likes of BuzzFeed. So we've got hundreds of different partners we work with, all premium, all household names, and we want to have Twitter used as that platform to really make their stuff shine even brighter.
Thank you, guys. Yes, please. Got a couple of minutes.
Hello, Nico Franks from C21 Media. Dara, you mentioned that the What to Watch would be carried with advertising from TV broadcasters or streamers. How much will that prevent you from really being able to stick the boot into certain shows if a show jumps the shark, and it's being sponsored by the show, would that prevent you from reviewing it properly?
Look, we're true to our users. When I said it's going to be sponsored or carry ads, it's kind of what we operate. It's like a pre-roll model that allows us to put the shows out, and more importantly, allows us to repackage and put the highlights and target it to people that we think will like it. No, it's a pure editorial show. BuzzFeed are controlling the editorial. We're not going to sit there and say, well, no. The likes of Gogglebox on Channel 4, where they'll be watching something live, and you could argue then they'll be watching something going, oh, well, that's not a great episode this week, or what's he doing? Absolutely not. It's not a kind of church and state debate there.
I would actually say good luck trying to tell us what we say on the programme.
Yeah.
Good luck trying to tell Scott what to say on the programme. If you're going to slate it, you're going to slate it. Very quickly, 1 second. Questions coming here on the app. A lot of controversy about the Strictly lineup this year. What are your thoughts? We mentioned this very briefly before about the fact that, well, do you think it's all a load of crap, really, that the show that everybody loves is being slated before it's even started? But that chatter, that murmuring that started before the series is even kicked off, that's the kind of stuff you'll tap into.
Well, yeah, because the way that I sort of see it in regards to the Strictly lineup is that, it was, this sort of point of view was decided by a certain set of people, kind of, a very small set of people who work within, let's say, a print title, who might be very sort of, kind of snobbish or think that a certain type of sort of people aren't, or certain types of shows or personalities aren't worth sort of putting onto a programme. And it's sort of the case of, the fact is that we're not going to be, I think, snobby. TV habits are so sort of wide, different people's opinions are so wide, we're about opening that out rather than sort of being dismissive of certain people saying not being included. So, for example, with like Joe Sugg, people are like, oh, we shouldn't be on there. He's a YouTuber, or Stacey Dooley because she's on a documentary. Some people say, well, but she's got many fans. People absolutely love her. Absolutely watched by millions. Of course, these people should be involved in something like Strictly. They've got lots of fans on the internet.
Fan base. Yeah. Okay. And they're all going to come watch the show, which hopefully will be the way with What to Watch. We haven't got any more time, I'm afraid. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around, because I know there's another session you want to be a part of. But quick round of applause for this panel. And for yourselves, thank you very much for being with us to the end. Enjoy the rest of the festival. Thank you, bye.